Well, hello and welcome. Hello and welcome. My name is Alex Martinez, and I again use she, her, and her pronouns. Welcome to our session on online eRezLife software, eRezLife. We're going to spend a little bit of time today talking about assessment and then really getting into the meat and potatoes of how we're going to collect assessment data this year. And so I wanted to start off with the why. So when we talk about assessment and the cycle of assessment, it's really tied to learning and community. When we talked about creating learning opportunities that were intentional, around our educational priority, our learning goals and outcomes, we want to see if that's actually happening in the residence halls. And so that's where assessment comes in. And so we're going to ask you to be filling out these assessment forms throughout the year. I'm going to show you how to today. And again, they're tied to those learning goals and outcomes within learning community. So identity, relationships and community, equity and justice, and social responsibility. And we're trying to understand if learning occurred, right? So that's why we're doing assessment. What you need to know is that there's going to be multiple people filling out some assessment forms. So all of paraprofessional staff members, residents will actually be filling some of them out, and I'll get into that a little bit later. Your resident hall director and resident directors will also be filling these out, and your assistant directors. So we're really going to centralize our assessment efforts through this platform called eRezLife, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. Another thing I just wanted to fill out, this is one way that we're assessing student learning. There's multiple ways that we're going to be doing that throughout the year, but this is just one sliver of that. We're probably going to do some engagement strategy checks to see if the data that came through, if that's actually the lived experience of you and of residents. And then we also do some other components of assessment throughout the semester as well. And so why is this important? Well, data helps inform our practices, right? And so how do we know if an engagement strategy like intentional interactions is working in the way that we intended it to? We only know that if we kind of know the themes of those conversations and what residents are going through and what that experience is looking and sounding like from them. So it helps us not only inform our practices, but it also serves as another layer of informing if we need additional support or we need to change our approaches in a really quickly and timely manner. The other piece about assessment that's really important is the assessment loop. And so moving to eRezLife as the platform where we're collecting all that data, we're hoping to interpret that data more quickly and get it back to your people at multiple levels, right? Your residence hall directors, your assistant directors, you, and then also residents. They should know, like, hey, after we did intentional interactions, there's a lot of people who might be feeling a little bit homesick right now, or there's lots of people who are feeling really confident in their classes. So we're going to try and work to get that assessment data back to you so that there's this whole cycle that's happening. So what? Learning community facilitation guide. So if you pull out your link binders, what you'll notice at the back of every single one of your facilitation guides is this assessment outline and assessment plan. And so this is going to walk you through exactly what we're asking in the assessment forms that you're about to submit. But I wanted to just let you know that information about assessment is also embedded into every single one of your forms. Again, eRezLife is a residence life software platform that we're going to use to centralize our processes and kind of prepare for the future. So I'm going to get you started. I'm going to get you right into it and go through a few of these assessment forms. And then you're going to have a little bit of time to actually log into a training space, try some stuff out with your hall director there, and do that experiential learning. So the other piece that you need to know about eRezLife and this effort to move to a centralized approach is that we are in the early stages of this. We're learning around this. So things are not going to be perfect right off the bat, but we ask for your feedback and your patience and your best effort as we're trying to move towards eRezLife. So what you're going to want to do is go into our Blackboard shell, the eRezLife Paraprofessional Development Blackboard shell, and click on today's file, Tuesday, August 11th. Go down to the assessment software eRezLife session that we're in right now, and then you're going to want to click on this eRezLife training space. So go ahead and click that, and it should bring up a link. And it's going to say right here, what you're going to notice is this training site email. So you know that this is a training site at the top. This is not the live site. And I'll show you the link to the actual live site at the end of this session. But this is the training site. And so you'll notice it's, eRezLife. That's a small e, capital R, Res Life, and then learning community. So it's branded for our communities. So you are going to use your CMISH login that you would use for your email or getting on Blackboard, any of those types of things. It's called a single sign-on, and so I'm going to use mine. And so as you're exploring the training site today, it's going to be over here on the left. As you're clicking through, just make sure you do these checks every once in a while to make sure that you're still in the training site and not in the real site. So what you're going to experience as a staff member is these assessment forms all on the left here. So the different engagement strategies in their assessment forms are going to be listed on the left-hand side. What you're going to notice about that as you log onto the training site, but also the live site, is that depending on your position and what assessment forms you complete, that will dictate what is shown over here on the left-hand side. So if you're an inclusion assistant, you're going to see campus community events, you're going to see your intentional interactions, and the RHD, RD content-led program assessments, those will populate for you. Because you're not doing community builders in that traditional way, that won't show up. Resident assistants, you're going to see community agreement, community builders. We actually took the community meeting you won't see because your hall directors actually do that assessment. But you will also see this door decorations introduction. So what you need to know is the role that you play on campus, like your paraprofessional position, will dictate what assessment forms that you can see. And we're trying to do that intentionally, because why would you need to see a form that you're not filling out, right? So I'm going to actually click through some of the forms, and I'm going to show you it on the live site, and then I'll go back into the training site and click around a little bit as well for you. So just bear with me for one moment. All right, so this is the live site. This is what it's actually going to look like when you go in, and you'll notice it'll say residence management up here as opposed to training site. So when you're ready to actually start doing your forms, you're gonna go into the live version of that, and I'll send you out the link to make sure that you have it at the end. But I just wanted to go through some of the forms so that you can see what to expect. And again, at the end of this session, we're going to hold some space for you to be able to get into the training site and click around and fill out some forms. Now, what you do need to know, again, a little bit of table setting, is the forms in the training site are a little bit outdated. As we launched this, we noticed that we needed to have make some adjustments along the way with the different forms. And so if it's not exactly perfect in the training space, that's okay. Know that we're trying to make adjustments in the live space, and that's what I'm going to show you as we go along today. So let's start with door decorations and introductions. So that's one of your very first strategies. That's going to start on Thursday. And so if you've been reading your facilitation guide and you're preparing for move-in, what you're going to do is throughout the day, you're going to connect with those individuals who are moving in. You're going to bring your a blank universal door deck with you. You're going to introduce yourself to that community member. You're going to make sure that they're moving into the correct bedroom. You're going to give them a little overview of what your role is. You're going to invite them to participate in the strategy and ask them what their preferred name is. And you're going to fill it out and offer it to put it on their door and encourage them to add to it, right? Maybe social media or their academics or things that they're interested in once it's up on the door. And then after that intentional conversation that you're having and that the introduction and door decorations, you're going to log on to eRezLife and fill out an assessment form. So for each community member that you connect with, you're going to come in and complete a form. So let's say I just connected with Olivia Braggs. Let's see. Let's say I connected with Olivia. So I'm going to go into my door decorations introductions form, and this is what you're going to see. So the date, well, Liv moved in, let's say on Thursday, and her move-in time, I connected with her at around 11 o'clock in the morning. And then Liv is over in South Campus in Merrill, so I'm going to click that one. And I'm going to go down, and if you have questions along the way, there's these information pieces. So what are intentional introductions and door, like what are these items and what are the helpful reminders? All this information comes right from your facilitation guide. So if you're having some current concerns about how to fill it out, the information is right there in front of you. It also shows you the learning goal, and so it should all be right there. So you're going to search for the person. I'm going to look for Olivia. There she is. She comes up. I'm going to click her name and put it in there. And then, did you complete a door decoration hangout for them? I did with Liv. If you didn't, if the student didn't want to, that's all right. You could say no and give a reason why. And if a reason why is not listed right there, you would just describe it. But Olivia did. She wanted to do that, and I did complete a door decoration for her. And then we're really interested in a brief summary of the interaction. So if I was talking to Liv and letting them know about the community meeting that was coming up and what my role was, and kind of just welcoming her to the community, and she maybe asked me a question, I would click, yep, student asked a staff member a question. If she was excited to be moving, I'm going to put that in there. Maybe she's also a little bit nervous, right? We don't know exactly why, but maybe she's a little bit nervous. And then if I wanted to make sure that she moved into the correct assigned bedroom, so I'm going to click that one too. She didn't say or not if she was gonna, add any more information to her door decoration. That's okay. What we're really looking for from these assessment forms is themes from that interaction. So if there's other things that happen in there, themes that weren't listed above, you can put that in there. If someone shared that they're worried about a roommate, maybe that's a theme that you would put in there, and you would just click and type in worried about roommates. And then after you're done that, you're going to want to send to the RHD or RD to review. So you would click that, and that would send it to the RHD for them to review. So every interaction that you have with the door decoration introduction that you're doing, you're going to log like this. And what I hope you notice that as you go along, it's going to be pretty quick. You're going to pop in, you're going to quickly just be able to click those brief summaries of those interactions and kind of work through that during that move-in period. I forgot to mention at the beginning, eRezLife is a web-based platform, and so you don't have to download any other apps or anything like that, and you can complete these on your phone. You would just open up your preferred web browser, log in, and you can complete that. And it's an intuitive design in that it would just shrink to the size of the screen it's on. So you can complete this on laptops, iPads, phones, whatever you'd like. You just have to go to that web browser. So that's how to do a door decoration introduction. I'm not going to submit it right now because I'm in a live session, but I wanted to show you what it's going to look like. I also wanted to show you a few other forms that we're going to fill out. So the community agreement. Once you have done your floor and courtyard meeting and taken a little bit of time to talk to your residents and you came up with your community agreement, you're going to go into this form and fill it out. And remember, all of the assessment questions that you're going to be asked are in your facilitation guide, or you can even just pop into eRezLife and see. So if you're like, man, what am I meant to focus on for the assessment for the community agreement, you can take a look at your facilitation guide or come into eRezLife. So the community agreement, the date, maybe that's the date that you completed and posted in the time. Let's say this happened in Fabiano. And then again, these are informational pieces for you to provide some context. So take a peek at the information and assessment. Again, it mirrors what was in your learning community binder. And then you are actually going to enter the community members who participated. So right now it's asking you to upload an Excel file, but I'm working to get that changed to do the exact same thing that we had with the door decorations, the introductions, which is just adding all the community members by looking them up. So that's going to change. But what you want to look at from the assessment piece is the themes that came up in your community agreement. So what we know from previous year and the previous data that we've had is that when we talk about communal spaces, a lot of times these things come up. And so when we talk about how communities want to engage with each other, these themes come up. So go ahead, once you're completed your community agreement, just click in the different themes that came. And if there was other stuff that maybe didn't show up, that's okay. But those three headings are communal spaces. So putting water in the Easy Mac, that's always the one that comes up. Cleaning out lint traps, please, that's being a good steward in the community. Keeping doors open, maybe not so much this year, right? But knocking before entering a room, I think that's going to happen. And then maybe you talked about conflict expectations as well. So politely asking for people to change their behavior, right? And then once you have your community agreement, you're also going to want to upload an artifact, like a picture of it, or if you did a Word document, or however you captured the community agreement that you're going to hang in a space or give out to community members, you're going to want to attach that. And then the last question is, how did you go about creating that community agreement with members? Did you create a poll online? Did you ask for suggestions as you were going around and meeting people? Did you hold a time online where you came together and spoke about what the community agreement is going to be? So just a little short, brief overview of how you went about creating your community agreement. And again, you send to your RHD and RD for review. So that's for the community agreement. Community builders. Let's leave this page. So these are for resident assistants. You are doing 2 community builders in the first part of the semester and 2 community builders at the back end of the semester. So you're going to want to enter the date of your community builder. Let's say it's that first Tuesday of classes, and this is in Trout North Campus. Oh, and now, because we have each RA on different floors doing community builders, there's this extra piece. So which floor did a community builder? Second floor of Trout. And then it's the same thing. So who attended? So well, you would just type in the name of someone on your floor. Let's see if Quinn will come up. Quinn, oh, I have even Carrie, sorry about that. Okay, so I know Quinn is not in Trout, sorry about that, but then their name would come up. I'm gonna fix that you can add multiple people, so you'll be able to add all of your students who are in attendance, and then what was the name of the program? Let's say there was a Slurpee stroll, right? And then any observations or themes from the community builder. So what did you notice? What are people talking about, right? Maybe you noticed that that you connected really well with someone on the first day and that they are interested in wanting to get to know other people on the floor. Just overall observations and themes from your community builder. And then once you're done, you hit RHD, RD review. And so we will talk about at the end of this kind of the frequency. So when you're going to submit different assessment forms, and that's going to kind of be evolving throughout the semester. So I'll give you an overview of what that's going to look like, but that's what a community builder looks like. RHDs are doing the assessment for the community meeting, so I'm not going to show you that one right now. I will show you intentional interactions. So you have one set of intentional interactions for the fall semester. So you're going to want to enter the date that you complete your intentional interaction. Let's say it's a Thursday on the 17th of September, and you're meeting with your person at 10 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock p.m., and that is going to be in Sweeney. And location, you are meeting in the lobby, socially distanced, of course. And then again, if you have questions about the information, the assessment, it's all right there for you and where we connect into the learning goals and outcomes. And then you're going to want to write, again, you add the name of the student who you connected with. I think really staff member, but you just type their name in and then add them. And then this part is that a first year or returning community. So it's a first year community. And if it's a first year community, the learning goal and outcome is identity. And so the residents' ability to identify their strengths. And so could they name two or more of their strengths? Were they able to name one strength? Maybe they weren't able to name any. So you just pick one of those. And then some of the themes that applied from your conversation around their strengths. So maybe they're really good at academics and they're feeling really good about their social connections. If there's another thing that came up, that's great. Just go ahead and type it in there. Again, we're looking for themes. And then again, for first year students, the question has to do, second part of the question has to do with their weaknesses. So were they able to identify their weaknesses? Maybe they named two or more things, or like, wow, you know, I'm not so good with my money right now in this semester, or I don't have any more flex and it's like September. But maybe also they're having trouble studying in a group, right? So maybe they name two or more weaknesses, or maybe just one. And then what are some of the themes? Like they're not so good at time management. Wow. And maybe if, again, it was money management, you would just put in money management, money management. If it's a returning student, then you would, and a returning community, then you would just add it in there. And then again, when you're done, you send that to your RHD. Boom. So that's what the intentional interaction assessment form looks like. Partner programs are put on by assistant directors of eRezLife, so you won't see that one. RHD and content-led programs are co-hosted by inclusion assistants and RHDs, so inclusion assistants should see this on their assessment reports, and you'll do this together with your hall director. So general information, there will be a drop-down menu of which residence hall it is, and then your specific questions. So there's going to be a program proposal that you do ahead of time. Is this a first year or returning community? The name of the content-led program, the students who are in attendance, we'll make a drop-down section for that. And then what assessment strategy did you choose and why, and an artifact around that. And so Demetrius and I will get a little bit more into that with inclusion assistants and residence hall directors and residence directors as we get closer, but I just wanted to quickly show you that form. What else is happening? There is self-guided learning opportunities. So I'll show you that one as well. The date that you submit your self-guided learning opportunity, which residence hall you live in, maybe you're in Campbell, and what floor you're on. You're on the 7th floor. And then it's going to ask you again your information, learning goals and outcomes. And if you want to move these out of the way, you totally can. But those are the learning goals and outcomes for you to see. And then the SGL number and week. So maybe this is your first SGL that you're doing, and in Troutman is a first year community, and then evaluation focus is going to be relationships and community. And what you're going to do is take a picture of your self-guided learning opportunity, or if it's a podcast, you can send a link to that. Or if it's another type of mediated mediated self-guided learning, then you would just capture whatever that sharing piece is and you would upload it. But if it's a bulletin board, you're going to take a picture, upload those pictures, and then also just name the sources that you reference to create your self-guided learning opportunity. And then you submit to your RHG and RD for review. So that's how you do a self-guided learning opportunity. I'm going to talk about roommate agreement assessments, and then I'll also talk about roommate agreement workbook. So the roommate agreement assessment is going to occur after you have met with each of the living units that you are overseeing. And so that's after you've already completed your roommate agreement workbook, either digitally or in person. And I'm going to show you the digital option in just a minute. But this roommate agreement assessment is what you're going to do again for every single living unit that you connect with. So the date that you met with them to complete the roommate agreement workbook, the time, there'll be a drop-down menu for the residents and what room number. And then again, there's a whole bunch of information around here and helpful reminders. And then also what the connection is to the learning goal and outcome. You're going to add your different roommates here. And so I'll show you what this is going to look like. If we had Alexis Briggins, she's one of your roommates. She'll pop up like that. And then to add another one, you just go up here to this little green piece and let's put in Jordan. I know you're not really roommates, but let's just pretend. Okay, Jordan, and then you can see that now there's 2 roommates in here and maybe Nathan. Oops, sorry, and I had to hit plus, so there's roommate number 3, Nathan. Okay, and then if there's a 4th roommate, you put it in there, but that's how you add multiple roommates. And then the assessment part of the roommate agreement, you're just having, for the first part, phase 1, each resident think about their wants and needs for the categories in the roommate workbook ahead of the living unit. But then the actual assessment of the roommate agreement workbook has to do with effective conflict resolution. So you've done a lot of work to talk with residents about the roommate agreement workbook, and like there's so many different components in here, but the assessment for this part is really talking about conflict resolution. And that's important to know before you go into your facilitating those workbooks, because you're going to want to make sure you're highlighting that piece. So you're going to click off the strategies for effective conflict resolution that living unit discussed, and then if there was other themes that weren't described in there, you would just go ahead and add it. And then if you did a hard copy roommate agreement workbook with that unit, you would give that to your residence hall director or residence director. But if you did a digital copy, it's going to look a little bit different. So once you've completed that, you would hit RHD/RD review and it would be submitted. So you're going to submit one of those for every living unit that you meet with to facilitate that roommate agreement workbook. And you're working towards trying to connect with every one of your living units, right? So that's what the roommate agreement assessment looks like. This year, because it is the time of COVID and other considerations, we tried to create the roommate agreement workbook to be a digital option. So I'm going to show you that. This is different than the assessment, okay? This is a form, but it is different than the assessment. So if you had a room that wanted to get together with you and work through the roommate agreement workbook, but they wanted to do it digitally, you could do that. So you would maybe host a Teams meeting with all of those individuals in that living unit, and then you would log on to eRezLife and you would click this roommate agreement workbook. And you would actually be going through it like you would if you were in person, but you're just facilitating it and filling it out online. And so you would, again, enter the date that you're meeting with students to talk about their living situation, let's say the 1st of September, And let's say this was in Emmons in room 107. So we already have that room number. So you would literally walk through this with them like you would that physical hard copy, right? So we do a roommate agreement workbook. We give them the purpose, right? Because by discussing those issues beforehand, they can have conversations and revisit that agreement. So you would really walk through the purpose of the roommate agreement. You would add the students who are part of that. You would read to them and talk about what students' rights and responsibilities are, like you would if you were sitting in person. But you would just share the screen like I am doing right now with the individuals in that living unit, and kind of talk about those responsibilities, and then how you're going to use the workbook. And you would really start with this communication exercise. So you would ask your residents, be like, all right, we're going to talk about this communication exercise right now. Can you each unmute and talk to me about a little bit about your family and your background and anything that you're comfortable sharing, so we can kind of get a baseline to understand. And you would really facilitate that online and just work through this with them. Now you're asking me, but what about the part where I have to fill some stuff in about the different areas? Good question. As we go through, there's actual opportunities for you to fill in their responses and what they're agreeing to. And it is, again, reflective of the physical copy of the workbook. So you're going to ask the living unit, how are we going to practice social distancing in the shared areas of the room, right? And you're facilitating that discussion. Some people think, yep, if we're in that shared room, that common area, then we're going to have masks on. Or if we're in just, past the threshold of our door, we can take our masks off. But maybe Joe from down the hall comes, or any other resident on our floor wants to come into our space, we're going to ask them to stay in the common area. And then if there's someone like that, we would have everyone have their masks on, right? And so we would say, you would type in the actual text box, masks off when it is just us, visitors, people from down the hall, masks on. Woo. And you would type through each of these pieces with them, and you would ask them, how are we going to approach purchasing cleaning supplies? Maybe they're going to go weekly and get it together, or perhaps they all are going to pitch in $5 each week, right? And then you keep it moving, and you really help facilitate that conversation. And you would be, again, writing this, and I would encourage you to share the screen so the residents can see how you're filling this out, and making sure that you're capturing what they're agreeing to accurately. And so you would go through this with them, and go through every component, right? Cleanliness and neatness. You'd be facilitating these conversations about the bathroom, the bedroom, personal space, hygiene, sleep habits, all that stuff, communication and conflict, social behavior, all of that you'd be filling out with them like you would be doing physically if you were in that space with them. And then what you would do is enter their signatures. And so you would just ask for their verbal confirmation. Yes, this is what we're agreeing to. And so we would put, let's see, Lee O'Brien in there, and the date. We're talking about this on the 1st, and then we would add the next person into that. And so you would add all the roommates right into that agreement part. And then let's say it was facilitated by Quinn. And so you put that in there. There is a space for renegotiation, because we can come back to this digital form if things change later. But for the first part, it is all set. And so what's going to happen now is it'll send to the RHD RD for review, And what is going to happen is each of those community members will get a digital copy emailed to them of the community agreement. So that was a lot, right? I wanted to share this piece about the roommate agreement workbook being an online option form for you and for your residents if you would like to do that. Again, we're going to have all of our roommate agreement workbooks hard copy this year as well, but we wanted to give you some choice in how you wanted to facilitate those conversations. All right, the last thing I'm going to touch on before we hold a little bit of space for you to practice has to do with the community meeting quiz. So your RHDs and RDs will be conducting community meetings, and I'm sure you're very aware of them. You might even be part of those. And they're doing that digitally, so they're creating a video. But what they're also sending out in that video to students is a link to take this community meeting quiz. And so what you're going to notice and what you need to know is that all of your residents who receive that email, or however your hall director is sending that link out to them, they're going to be able to log on to eRezLife as well. And they might be asking you like, hey, how do I do this community meeting quiz thing, right? And they're going to ask you how to do that. And so we're going to ask you to help them navigate that. So tell them to click the link that they were provided, or go to cmish.erezlife.com and enter their CMU credentials, right? Their global ID and password. And then it's going to take them to a general page. They go over here to forms, and they should only see the community meeting quiz. That is the only form that they're going to be able to see. So they click on that, they put in the date that they take it. Let's say it's the 13th. It'll automatically have their student name because it's going to be linked to their account. And then we're going to go right into the quiz. So should I carry both my CMU ID and my room key with me at all times? Yeah, that's a true. Can I have overnight guests? False, that is a no. Quiet hours exist each night so that each student can sleep, study, and live without disruption. True. Michigan state law prohibits the possession or consumption of alcohol by anyone under the age of 21. CMU and the Office of Residence Life expects residents and their guests to comply fully with these laws. That is true. So we'll ask the residents, you get the picture. So we'll ask the residents to go through this and click them. And then at the bottom, it says, it's a little bit directive. If you have completed the quiz, please click close form to submit your answers. And then if students are like, man, I don't know about that policy, they can actually click this link right here, and it will take them directly to the housing policies and the handbook from the Office of Residence Life. So it's a pretty little slick addition there that they can have that information for them right away. We want them to get this quiz right, and we want them to have the resources to make really good choices. And so once they've done that, they hit close form, boom, and they are done. You are also residents, right? So you're going to see that as well, that community meeting quiz. And so once you've watched the community meeting video from your RHD, go ahead and jump in there and complete that community meeting quiz. All right, I think that is all of the pieces I wanted to show you right now on the actual website. Excuse me. I did want to briefly touch on when the different items, the different assessment forms were due. Your residence hall director has this master document of link assessment forms and overviews, and it tells you what the different engagement strategy is, and then who completes it, and what the assessment frequency is. So how often do you complete that? Sorry. And then the start date, end date, week range to complete, and the due date and the due time. So your hall directors are going to help you kind of stay on track with when things are due. And this document can also be found on the Blackboard shell. If you go under Learning and Community over here on the left-hand side, it's going to say Opening STL Documents, but right down here is the link assessment overview and due dates. So that should keep you on track. But what you really need to know and what you really need to focus on for opening is door decorations and introductions, So that's for resident assistants. So every meeting that you have with every meeting you have with a student who's coming in, who's moving in, you're going to fill one of those out. And again, it should not take you that long at all. And then also the community agreement. So resident assistants, those are the two assessment forms that you're going to focus on for opening in that first day, or excuse me, that first week of classes. Then they will start coming on, right? Then we're going to have your self-guided learning and community builders are going to come on in there, and then community builders 2. And for inclusion assistance, your campus community events are going to come up. But what you really need to focus on for opening is the door decorations and introductions. And then once you have your community agreement done, entering that in there. Okay. About 40 minutes in here, I would like for you to spend the next little time with your residence hall director or residence director, jumping into the training site for eRezLife. So again, if you go into the Blackboard shell as an individual, Tuesday, August 11th, go down to this session, assessment software, eRezLife, click that, and then hit this eRezLife training space. It's going to prompt you to another login. You click that, you put your CMISH email in, and you know that this is the training site because it says up here at the top. And then you sign in. It might give you an error, but you just say, yep, I want to click it at the top, and then on the right-hand side, the training site and residence life. When you're in the training site, go for submitting all of these forms, right? So start with that door decoration introduction, try it out, click in sometimes. Let's just see what we can do. Beto, name. Let's see if we can get Lee in there. Oh, it might not be populating. But practice trying to get somebody's name there. Let's see if I can do this. Olivia Schwartz, let's put you in there. Yes, all right, Liv. So you're in there now. And when I talked to you, you were excited to be moving in. You did ask me a question and you did move into your room, your sign room, and you shared with me your name. Then I put that on your door deck. You did complete a door deck and we had a good time. And I'm going to submit to the RHD and RD for review. And then you're going to decide who you can send it to. So if you're in Beto, you're going to send that to Casey, and Casey will be an option. But for right now, let's say Skylar is your person, and boom, it has been submitted. And you can see that you just submitted that today. And then jump in there and try things out. So when you're in this training site, you can submit forms. You don't have to worry about that going to someone or initiating an email or any of those types of things. You can just try things out in the training site. Again, I'd ask you to just remember the training site is a little bit different than the live version because we changed a few of the questions in the forms just to make them a little bit better. But this will at least give you a really good idea of how to fill out forms and get on the platform and click around. So the last thing I wanted to show you before you do that is if you're in this Blackboard shell, once you've done your training and you're ready to go and move-in starts on Thursday, when you look for that link for eRezLife, it's over here on the top left-hand side under Welcome and Schedules. The training space is the first one, but the actual live website is just cmish.erezlife.com, and this link will take you right there. And you will sign on as normal, but you'll notice in the live version, when you go to the sign on, it doesn't say training site at the top. So that's how you know if you are if you're in the live site or if you're in the training site. So why don't you go ahead and take the next few minutes to start clicking through some of those assessments, and your hall directors and residence directors will be right there with you, kind of working through some stuff as you go along. All right. I hope you have a great rest of the morning and take really good care.